Right now, we'll be looking at three things that are really connected, so it's easier to present it all at once. That way you get the same concept all the way across. These three things are the verbs tener, venir, and a bunch of irregular yo verbs. And you'll see in a minute what that means. But tener and venir are both irregular yo verbs. So we'll start with the verb that you already know. Okay? Tener. Tener is to have. Okay, so you know this because you've been using this phrase a lot. Tengo 15 años. You've been using that phrase for a while. You've been saying tengo un hermano or tengo una mochila. Okay, so all of those forms of the verb tener are in the yo form. Yo tengo. Real quick, let's go through the other forms just so that you have an idea. You've seen a lot of these, but just to formalize it. So we're going to say yo tengo, tú tienes, él y ella y usted tiene, nosotros tenemos, vosotros tenéis, and ellos and ellas and ustedes tienen. Okay, so those are the conjugations of tener. So tener, generally speaking, does mean to have. So yo tengo 15 años means I have 15 years. Yo tengo un hermano, I have a brother. Yo tengo una mochila, I have a backpack. But tener can also be used in a bunch of different expressions. So these expressions are just memorization expressions. You use tener to talk about things that in English we might use the verb am, is, are. For example, the way you say I am cold in Spanish is you don't say yo soy frío, you say I have cold or I have coldness. And so what you would say is you would say yo tengo frío. To say hot, to say I'm hot, you would say I have heat. Yo tengo calor. Okay, so it would work the same for any other subject. So if you wanted to say you are cold, you would say tú tienes frío. To say he is hot, you'd say él tiene calor. Okay? So again, you have to stop thinking about it as the English way and just think about he has heat. And you'd say él tiene calor. We are hot, nosotros tenemos calor. Okay? So tener can be used in a bunch of different expressions that work kind of the same way. And so what I'll do is I'll give you just a couple of expressions here as examples, and you need to go back into memorize because I've listed all of those in memorize already and work through those. That way you can get the whole list of them and memorize what they mean. So we'll start with a couple and just to show you. Tener hambre. Tener hambre means to be hungry. So if you want to say I am hungry, you're going to say yo tengo hambre. All right? Tener sueño means to be sleepy. So to say she is sleepy, you would say ella tiene sueño. So again, we'd say ella tiene sueño. Okay? So again, all you do is you take your subject, you take the correct form of tener, and you add whatever the phrase is to communicate that meaning. Tener frío, tener calor, tener hambre, tener suerte, tener sed, all of those phrases of tener that you have to go back and memorize to look for. Okay? Another verb that works the same way as far as its conjugations anyway is the verb venir. Venir. Okay? Venir. And that means to come, like arrive. So we would say that verb, yo vengo a la escuela, I come to school. Ella viene al colegio, she comes to school. And then we could also add in time statements. A las 7. Yo vengo a la escuela a las 6:30. So check out the way you would say at, and then you'd say a las. okay, to tell whatever the time is at which a person comes. Okay, so real quickly here, we'll do the same thing that we did with tener. And I'm going to make this easy for me and actually easy for you too. You might still have to copy, well, you'll still have to copy it down, but you'll get the same idea. Control V. What I did is I just copied the exact same conjugations because tener works exactly the same as venir. Whatever you conjugate or however you conjugate tener, you conjugate venir also. So if it's yo tengo, I'm going to change this. I'm going to say yo vengo. If it's tú tienes, I'm going to change this to tú vienes. If it's él, ella, usted tiene, I'm going to change it to él, ella, usted viene. Now here's where it's a little bit different, and I'll highlight these two differences. Just a little bit different. Tenemos. Now because tener is an ER verb and venir is an IR verb, we're going to have different endings here. We're still going to have the TV, and we're going to change that E to an I. Venimos. Venimos because it's an IR verb, venir. And then vosotros would be V here, and I would change that to the vosotros ending venís. Okay, vosotros venís, but like I said, don't worry too much about vosotros. And then ellos, ellas, ustedes tienen, so it would be ellas, ellas, ustedes vienen. So tener and venir work exactly the same. Yo vengo a la biblioteca. I come to the library. Él viene al estadio. He comes to the stadium. And again, that verb works exactly like tener. The last couple of verbs that we're going to look at are irregular yo verbs. And again, these you have to go back and memorize to look at. And the reason they're called irregular yo verbs is because they work exactly like all other conjugations. So you drop your AR, ER, IR, you add your new ending. They work exactly like all other conjugations except in this yo form. So they've got something weird going on in the yo form. And I put all these together because tener is an irregular yo verb. What's weird about it? Well, that G. Where does that G come from? Venir is an irregular yo verb. Where does that G come from? A bunch of irregular yo verbs are G verbs. So I'm going to give you a bunch of examples. Again, these aren't memorized. Go back, study those there, rehearse those, practice them. So yo tener would be yo tengo. Yo venir would be yo vengo. Yo salir, and salir means to go out again. So if you want to say I go out, you'd say yo salgo. Okay, you see a pattern there. Yo poner, which means to put. So follow that same pattern. If it's yo tengo, yo vengo, yo salgo, yo pongo. Yo hacer, hacer means to do. Yo tengo, yo vengo, yo salgo, yo pongo, yo hago. Let's see, salir, hacer, decir means to say. Yo tengo, yo vengo, yo salgo, yo pongo, yo hago, yo digo. And then we've got a couple of irregular yo forms that don't have those G's in there. Actually, let me do one more here. Yo traer, to bring, and you'd say yo traigo, traigo. Okay, and the couple of irregular yo forms that don't have that G, and again, you need to look at memorized so you can see and practice all of these because they're all listed on there for you. Yo ver, which is to see, you're going to say yo veo. Again, it's irregular because that E stays in there. You don't drop off the ER, add O. You keep the E, you add O. And the last one would be yo saber, to know, and that would be yo sé, and you're used to hearing yo sé, yo no sé. So again, these are just memorization. They're irregular because they don't follow the regular rules, but only in the yo form. Only in the yo form. Everything else works exactly the same. All right, practice, look at memorize, review these notes. That's it.